Welcome to the Soul Touched by Dogs podcast, the show for dog lovers who see dogs not as toys or tools, but wise souls worth our respect and care. I'm Anke Herman, and I'm your host. I talk to awesome humans, people who do great work for dogs and their people. So come and join us for today's conversation. Hello and welcome back, Dr. Ed. Lovely to have you here with me.
Thanks so much for having me back on your show. It's always good fun, and I'm really happy to be here.
Me too. I'm really happy to have you. So, for anybody who hasn't heard you on my show before, let people know where you're based and, what's your business for dogs.
So I live in regional Victoria in Australia. I'm about an hour and a half drive from Melbourne at a little village called Taradale. I'm a holistic veterinarian, and I'm the founder of the whole energy body balance method, which is a modality for pets, people, and horses that integrates therapeutic touch, neurofascial bodywork, intuitive perception, and energy healing.
And I still remember the day I stumbled across your work, and it was on Facebook, and it was about silent pain in pets, and that
Yes.
got me because it was like, yeah, they're so good at hiding it, right? So what if we had a way to actually detect that? So it's really powerful work, and I've been like in your world ever since. I've had you on my summit, and so now you've written a book about it. I'd be curious to hear, like, what inspired you to write the book.
Here it is.
Look at that little face. That's amazing.
Find and heal your pet's silent pain. Learn how to hear your pet's silent cries for help. Never again miss hidden pain, anxiety, and trauma. So I woke up. Oh, I got woken up to the fact that there is hidden pain in the necks and backs of animals when I was only about a year and a half out, graduated. And then when I started feeling into bodies with an idea that I might be missing something, so I got more curious and was exploring more deeply and more intently. I pretty quickly found that I'd been missing a heap of neck and back pain. So that's what I started off with, really focusing on the spine. And after some years, I started noticing that there's all these soft tissues, all these neurofascial tissues throughout the body, and realized that, the spine, though it's probably one of the most important parts of the body, it's not the only thing that needs help. And then reaching out from that, I also then started thinking about emotional silent pain, which is anxiety, trauma, things like that, which again, a lot of animals have rumbling away under the surface, and the humans just don't really understand the signs to tell that the animals are trying to tell the people that they've got problems. And I also had chronic fatigue for quite a long time. So I came down with chronic fatigue about 4 years after I graduated, I think, and was unwell for decades. And I also then got into the whole thing of energetic silent pain, because I had a lot of pain, not just physically, not just mentally, emotionally, but through the energy systems in my body. So that's what has led me to create the whole energy body balance method. But this particular book is really focused on bringing awareness into the world of the undeniable fact that around 50% or more of animals have significant pain that is undiagnosed, missed, that they show little or no signs of. And this book's got a whole lot of information in it for people to learn about what the problem is and how to pick up the red flags, the subtle signs that a lot of people miss or don't understand. And there's some core skills in here to help you learn how to feel in the body to find silent pain, and some touch to help with anxiety and trauma, and some other touch to help with releasing at least the superficial layers of pain and tension out of animals' bodies.
So it kind of seems to be mandatory reading for any pet owner, really. And I would almost say in veterinary school, because I mean, that's usually the first thing, right? If I'm thinking that there's, and that's been a big journey for me to kind of realize that, yeah, vets don't always have all the answers, right? So you go there and
Well,
you get the wrong advice, or they don't know, so I mean, this stuff, like, they should know.
well,
you
uh,
know?
one thing I'm going to say is that vets only know what they've been taught, and they're
Mm,
highly skilled. They have a lot of information, and they, in nearly all cases, though I have met a few stinkers in my career, in nearly all cases, vets are devoted to giving the best advice that they know with their understanding and with the knowledge that they have for animals. No way am I ever going to join in with um, being unkind to vets in any way, because I know how stressful and difficult their job is. But there is a yawning gap in knowledge and skill when it comes to silent pain in pets across the board, in pet owners, in pet professionals, whether it be groomers or trainers or rehabbers or physios or breeders or people showing dogs and competing in agility, and right through to veterinarians. There is this complete lack of understanding of the prevalence of and the seriousness of silent pain as a very large problem that has really serious impacts on well-being. And a lot of the animals that I work with, we give them bodywork sessions, and suddenly they're a new dog and they're playing like they haven't played for years, and they're doing, I don't know, sometimes naughty things like digging holes that they haven't done for ages. And I had one greyhound I worked with who literally at the ripe old age of 12 became a naughty puppy. He
oh.
never had any of it. He started getting into bins and chewing things up and tearing things up and having the best fun of his life when we set him free from an immense amount of silent pain and trauma from a long racing career. So it's still not taught at vet schools. I was working in a clinic probably 18 months, 2 years ago. I had a spell of about a year and a half working in a vet clinic. We had a number of final year vet students come through, and I told them about this, and they go, "Oh, that's awesome. I've never heard of it." And they're just about to go out into practice. So I can be reasonably confident that even though bodywork, massage, physio, rehab, these hands-on therapeutic touch kind of modalities have become much more prominent in veterinary science over the last 10 years than ever before, there is still overall in the profession a big knowledge and skill gap, because silent pain, not all animals show the red flags. I mean, I've got a long list of red flags, which you'll read about in the book so that you can see them and go, oh, my goodness, my dog's doing those things. That's a problem. They're trying to tell me they're in pain. But to really consistently and effectively discover this kind of soft tissue, neck and back pain, the only way that you can do that is to feel into the body, to palpate through the tissues, to bring pressure and connection into the pain and tension, and then be very sensitive to the animal's non-verbal communication while you're doing that. Because you get a sore spot, they go, oh, yeah, it's sore there. And that's what I've discovered. I've been really fortunate. I've had a lot of fortunate circumstances and situations, and an early mentor in Dr. Tom Ahern, who was a vet who'd worked out this way of working on horses' necks. And that's what got me, well, I thought horses have sore necks. What about dogs and cats? And that led me into actively exploring the body in a whole deeper, more curious way than I had before, and very quickly finding pain and tension. And then when I found pain and tension, I wanted to do something to help these animals. So I started playing around with pressure and touch and movement, because there were no modalities available to learn. 28 years ago when I started doing this, there's a wealth of different kinds of things you can learn with your animals these days: massage, body work, energy healing, animal communication, all sorts of things. But when I started out, I think I'm lucky that I grew up on a cattle farm, and you just, if there's something that needs doing, well, you got to find a way to do it. And I think that I'm fortunate to have that kind of patterning and background as well, so that when I came to finding these animals with pain, well, I just thought, well, I'll do something. I'll try something, see what happens. And pretty quickly we saw animals responding to even my early, pretty basic attempts. And the work has evolved through thousands and thousands of animals over many, many years, teaching me what works for them. Telling me, don't do that, that doesn't, that pressure's just right. And, you might try a different type of movement or connection and the animal will melt. I go, oh, that worked for that one. We might try it for another few. And if it works consistently, then it becomes a teachable, repeatable skill that becomes part of the modality.
And I think the key piece I'm taking, there's so much hope in this. One is to almost simply accept that you can't just hand over or outsource the well-being of your animal to somebody else, because they don't know your animal and they might not even know that there's, so it's like you can't just go, oh, the vet said he's all right. So it's almost like we know now that that's not enough. So we have to take that ownership and that advocacy and do something and learn about it ourselves. And it is beautiful when they kind of like, oh, and they go all soft and melt into your, look at him, oh, look at that face, oh, I haven't seen him in so long.
Here's Jem.
Goofy face.
Our little bit over 1 year old whippet. Jem's very sad because we lost our beautiful cat last week to a snake bite, and Fred was Jem's best friend in the world.
Oh.
Now, Jem has been ratty and mad and has peed on the couch and has been super demanding of attention because she's got lots of big feelings and she doesn't quite know how to deal with them. So I've been using the whole energy body balance work, relaxing touch and energy healing and things like that to help her through this. And yeah, absolutely. The more that people can become empowered to work with their animals, with healing touch, with healing energy, all these different kinds of things, it doesn't mean that you're not going to have a vet, but it means that you can do a whole lot with your animals that otherwise you couldn't. And your animals, they might be at home when you're at work and sleep when they jump off the couch. They might be playing and have a bit of a crash with their friend. They might just sleep in a funny position and wake up with a crick neck, like I think every human on the planet knows that feeling of waking up and stretching and something going ping, and it's like, oh my God, that hurts. And with my animals, I get my hands on them all the time, and that means that I pick up hidden pain rapidly. It doesn't stay there to get worse and to cause suffering, and I can do something straight away to make a difference. And I think that's the beautiful thing. Not only that, this kind of work is incredibly strengthening of your relationship with your animals. The whole modality is a relationship first modality. Everything we do is focused around working with the animal, making the animal feel safe and secure and able to relax and allow us to engage with pain and tension. Some animals it takes, a few weeks or a month or two to teach them to allow therapeutic touch with painful areas. So let me back down on my bed, please. I've been working with a traumatized, anxious, reactive dog with quite high levels of pain, especially in this dog's lower back. And it's taken me 3 or 4 sessions to get to a point where I can actually even rest my hand on the lower back for any period of time.
Because it requires a lot of sensitivity then, right? To really take in the reaction that comes back, to not just kind of go and,
Absolutely. But I find that people know their animals and they tend to learn how to have this adaptive touch. So your animal does something and that's the communication, and you communicate that you've heard them by changing the quality of touch that you're engaging with. So it's not hard to learn. If you're willing to put time in and practice and learn, it's actually really simple.
Yeah. I love the simplicity of it too. So if a dog, for example, that dog you just described, who has, was like, don't really want to let you there. So how do you go about? Do you then have sessions, but you sort of gently get closer, or how do you go about teaching them that it's safe to let you touch that area?
Well, with this particular dog, I started off by getting the owner to be holding and cuddling the dog while I started working. So holding the collar and the front end and comforting the dog while I do some gentle touch to a level that they can tolerate. And then I teach the person how to do a particular relaxing touch skill and get them to do lots of that, or at least some of that every day. And then just each session builds more trust and connection. And in the most recent session, this dog would get up on the couch with me, and we'd actually be able to do some meaningful kind of really engaging with pain and tension touch for a period of time. Then she'd be like, "Oh, I need to get off the couch. That's a bit much. No, you can't rearrange me and ask me to stay there. That's too much." And then we get back on the couch and do another round. And then we got back on the couch. And after 3 or 4 rounds of that, I could actually start to, when she got down, pop a hand over the other side of her lower back and ask her to stay with me and not scoot her back end around and get distressed. And she ended up being able to allow that, which was a huge step for this dog because she's got a really serious traumatic history and a lot of pain. So it's a gentle, slow process of building trust through letting the dog know that you're really deeply listening to their responses and responding to their responses.
And I think that alone creates a lot of safety already, and I think that alone is already helpful. That the dog learns to understand that you're actually listening, because I guess if you look at the world through a dog, it's like, yeah, humans are probably the weirdest things for them, who just don't get it a lot of the time.
Yeah, look, I think humans in general are not great at understanding dogs and communicating with dogs because we behave like monkeys, because we are monkeys, really. We're primates. And we have a very different kind of physicality. We hug each other. That's a primate. And dogs don't like to be hugged, but humans want to hug their dogs, and it's just assume that dogs are going to feel like monkeys do. And they're very, very different. But it's not hard to learn how to interpret and understand dogs' body language and communication and shift our human expression just a little bit to be something that makes more sense to dogs and their kind of social structure and how they tick. And we cover a lot of that in the whole energy body balance work too, in terms of talking about how to be a good, clean, strong, benevolent leader with your dogs and how to express healthy boundaries around personal space, because that's something that dogs do in between each other all the time, but humans, they don't, and that can contribute to anxiety, and then anxiety can contribute to the actual body pain, soft tissue pain. So it's really important to learn how to understand your dogs better, and I think that this work also does that.
I love that. I love that. It's because it is all connected. It's not just, because you said it before, it's not just physical pain, it's emotional pain, even energetic pain. So it's all interconnected. So it's not, you can't just kind of like, just kind of poke on that sore muscle and then you're good. So I think that overall understanding and connection, I just love that holistic approach. That's why you're holistic, right? Because I think
certainly, I think one of the things that has influenced a lot of what I do is too that when I was a kid, I had a lot of social challenge and difficulty because I am definitely on the spectrum, and I was not able to understand a lot of the whole social weirdness that neurotypical and I really think that I've always found it easier with animals to understand and communicate with animals and work with animals than I have been able to do with people, which is a funny thing, really, but it's certainly contributed to me being able to, hopefully educate other people how to do all this too.
Well, it's really like building the bridge, right? Because it's almost like you're sitting sort of in the middle with your understanding. You understand this side, you understand that side. So you're like the translator between people and their dogs, right? It's yeah, and then because there is that big gap, so it's really a needed space in between to yeah, because you see it so often. Is there something, if you could say one thing that people that so like most people do wrong or misinterpret about, could you pinpoint one thing, or is that not a thing? If you say like one thing that people kind of under misinterpret in their dogs or
Look, I think there's a few things. One is that people just don't really understand or put any effort into learning dog talk or animal speak, I call it, in terms of what animals are expressing through their nonverbal communication. And animals are incredibly skillful nonverbal communicators. When you think about humans, um, you know, we are largely nonverbal too, but we think when we're totally verbal. We forget about the nonverbal thing, but people are getting a lot of unconscious information through the nonverbal thing. But if you can just start thinking about what is your dog trying to say? What are they trying to say to you in terms of the little changes in expression and their body language and their posture and all those kinds of things. And there's some, if you go looking for books on body language and that sort of thing with dogs, there's actually some really, really good resources. But people, I think, misinterpret a number of things when it comes to dog communication, which is probably one of the reasons why people get bitten more than they should. But I think I honestly think that silent pain is probably the biggest blind spot of all that needs to be remedied. And I'm hoping that everyone listening will tell all their friends about this, because it's a huge problem. And like I said, at least every second animal I get my hands on, there's significant pain in the body that the humans are like, what? Really?
yeah, that's massive. That's not just every, once in a while. Like it's literally, every second dog. That's incredible. Yeah. Is that like what about younger dogs? It's like I have a young one and I haven't one that's getting older now. So is there like I mean, I would assume that's the thing. That's my question. My first assumption goes, oh, it'll happen more with older dog. Is that true?
It
Maybe
does
that's
happen
a,
more in older dogs. There is no doubt of that, because soft tissue pain, neurofascial pain, builds up incrementally in layers in the body with all the incidents and traumas and wear and tear of life over time. So there's no doubt that by the time you get to an animal that's 9, 10, 11, 12 years old, you can just about guarantee that they'll have reasonable or significant levels of silent pain going on. It's not so common in younger animals, but you can still get the odd younger animal that can have really severe silent pain. I had a 14 or 16-week-old Rhodesian Ridgeback puppy come to see me, must be a year or two ago now. And this puppy was showing worrying behavioral signs, anxiety, potential aggression. And I got to tell you, it was a monster at that age. It was huge. When I met this puppy and got my hands on it, it had severe whole body soft tissue pain, neck and back pain. Now, was that a birth injury or something else? I don't know. Did it get dropped on its head by one of the kids in the family where the puppies were? I don't know. But and this dog too, when I was being as gentle as I could, but it showed signs that it was going to bite me because it didn't like that. We did a series of treatments. I think on the second treatment, this puppy decided that screaming at the top of its voice might stop me touching its orbit. So our ears were almost bleeding after 90 minutes of this dog screaming its head off. And it had the loudest, most piercing scream I've ever heard. But, about 80 minutes in, it gave up screaming, thankfully, because I wasn't going to be able to stop until it stopped screaming. And we did a series of about 4 or 5 bodywork, whole energy body balance sessions, resolved the pain, and that puppy went off to train up as an assistance dog for their autistic daughter and is now out everywhere, going to shops and helping this girl navigate the world. So
wow.
if we hadn't found that, real chance of behavioral euthanasia for that puppy if we hadn't discovered that hidden pain and resolved it through therapeutic touch. And therapeutic touch is really the only way that you can resolve this kind of soft tissue pain, because when you get pain relief, well, it might make the animal feel better, but it's not getting to the root cause. You really got to get into the tissues and use touch and movement in an intelligent and sensitive way to release that pain and tension out of the body. And you often release a whole lot of anxiety and trauma out of the body at the same time. So you often don't just see physical changes, you often see really beautiful, profound behavioral changes.
Wow. So it almost feels like, well, this should be standard part of what you're looking at when you have an anxious dog, when you have a stressed dog, or with behavior, even aggression issues. Well, that would definitely be one of the things to look at. Maybe there's some pain underneath, and there's probably, in most cases, maybe would be. It almost would be, you think like, well, it should probably be the first thing you look at.
There's nearly always pain involved with dogs with anxiety. Absolutely. And there's some particular qualities of therapeutic touch in the whole energy body balance method, which cause a very strong body level relaxation response. And that really is the foundation of how I treat anxious animals. And we have seen some incredible behavior modification through relaxing touch, because you use the relaxing touch. A lot of these animals, their nervous system is over here in overdrive, should be over here in the kind of green zone, healthy relaxation. But a lot of anxious animals, their baseline is actually on the aroused side of neutral, away from neutral. Every time you use touch to bring the whole animal's being into relaxation, you're actually training and teaching them how to do that regulation process. And when they relax in the face of a trigger or something that they've decided that's terrifying, even if it's just a sausage sizzling in a pan, which I've had a number of dogs freak out about, then they're starting to learn that, wow, I relaxed. Maybe that thing's not so scary. So over weeks and months, you can have a mental relearning things as well.
Actually, this whole, like, this dog of mine, the one who just passed in April, he was, he came, well, like super traumatized, and I lived in this area where it was, like historic part of town, and I didn't see. The thing is, I would imagine, just like vets, I've not met a vet whose intentions I doubted. Like, it's always clear that they're there to help the animals, right? And I was kind of that dog owner as well. I did my best, and I wasn't there to make my dog's life difficult. But in hindsight, I realized that actually living where I was living, in this historic part of town with tiny little alleyways and tourists and groups and bicycles and cats and dogs, and it was like, and like when I looked at it, I saw there was basically one sentence that changed everything. In a sense, it's like, my only job is to help my dog relax. And all of a sudden I looked at it through the lens of, and I'm like, that dog has sensory overload 24/7. And he couldn't. And I remember then I moved away out of town into a quiet place. Next thing I know, this dog lays there belly up, and I'm like, I've never seen him like this. And so it was in hindsight that I realized that this dog had never been able to relax at all. And it's like, oh my God, and I didn't even know. And I think that's probably what's behind all of this. Like, you don't even know. Like, now I'm kind of a lot more aware, and now I see it, but then I didn't know. I just took in a puppy that somebody else was about to kill off. And so now I'm like, okay, I've got another puppy. Wasn't the plan. So here I go, and he just sort of lived where I was living until I realized that he wasn't doing well there at all.
Yep, that's a pretty common thing to see as well. Dogs have got incredibly sensitive senses, and if they are not habituated and socialized well, then lots of environments can be really challenging for them.
Yeah. But it's that learning process on both sides, that understanding each other. And I think it's so beautiful to have that tool in that actually helps with that process and really teaches us. So I just love it. So we're gonna definitely want everybody to buy the book. It's a great read. I have it. So, so definitely pop the link. And where can, if somebody goes, oh my God, I'm hooked. I really want to be the best person I can be for my dogs. Where can they go and find out more about the training you offer
So
and get in touch with you?
there'll be a few links. You'll see a link where you can get a print version at Amazon. You'll see another link where you can get a digital version, and there's a couple of special little courses and things that you can add on to just the digital version of the book that you won't find anywhere else that are pretty cool in that one. You can go to thehealingvet.com to learn more about my services, and I am available for Zoom consultations worldwide as well if you want to work one-on-one with an animal that has got any kinds of challenges, health, behavior, whatever, or just wanting to do the best possible holistic kind of life plan that you can. And you can go to wholeenergybodybalance.com to check out the modality. And we have home and practitioner trainings for web bodywork for pets, which really focuses on the hands-on side of things, and also for web energy work for animals, which is more about intuitive development, energy healing, that kind of thing.
Love it. Well, thank you so much. Highly recommended. So I've got my hands into all of that. Highly recommended. Thank you so much for coming and sharing about your work and the new book that we want to get in everybody's hands. So thank you for coming.
You're welcome. It's an absolute pleasure to be on your show. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed the episode, don't forget to subscribe and leave a review so other dog lovers can find the show. If you haven't already, head over to soultouchedbydogs.com and sign up for weekly doggy cuteness, tips, recommendations, and personal stories to warm your dog-loving heart. And if you know a awesome human you think I should interview, I'd love an introduction. Email me at Anke, that's ANKE, @soultouchedbydogs.com.